Hey y'all, it's Alex and welcome back to my channel, and I finally got the tour of my 21st sketchbook for you guys. For my 21st sketchbook, I used the B Paper Company Super Deluxe Mixed Media, and I have to say this is my favorite paper that I've used in quite a while. I felt like this one had the least amount of bleed through that I had to worry about, and also I liked the slight texture to the paper. It's not as bad as textured as, say, watercolor paper typically is. I don't know how well it's showing off with these lights, but I personally like this paper texture a lot better than, say, the Illo sketchbook, which I haven't been liking smoother paper recently. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, it's just that I haven't quite been enjoying it as much. And let's dive in. They will be linked down below. I think in whatever sketchbook I happen to next, I'll be doing a self-portrait in all of my cover pages, just so that way we get like one per sketchbook. These next 3 pages are I'm gonna actually lay this flat. These next 3 pages are the Draw This in Your Style challenges that I hosted for celebrating, let's see, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and 1,000 over on Instagram. Okay, it is an acrylic ink. And then I did the main part of this one in watercolor, and then the background is acrylic ink. Marker, I feel like, has the best time out of these materials on this paper. There is a good amount of bleed through onto the other side of the page, but I didn't have to put a bleed page on this side to protect it from bleeding through onto the next page. It absorbs into this paper quite well. Colored pencil is cool. I don't use it quite enough, so I think I need to practice a little bit more with it to get more comfortable. And I feel like watercolor in particular gets a really interesting texture to it, but now that I'm following more artists that do watercolor, I see that this texture just kind of persists, even when they're using really good materials, so I think I need to kind of suck it up. This is watercolor texture. This piece was a random idea that came to me. It's a little leaf pixie who is seeing leaves change for the first time. I actually colored this a lot later than when I drew this piece, and that's actually a problem that I had through a lot of this sketchbook, where I really liked going through the piece itself, but then as soon as it came to me coloring it, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And this problem has persisted all the way on to more recently with these, because the 3 color challenges I've been doing recently were kind of to get me more comfortable to picking out colors and finding out how they exactly work together. I kind of wish I would have done the opposite. I'm not really the biggest fan of green. I don't know why, I don't particularly use it. This was part of the planning for my... I'm off the page a little bit, or off screen a little. This was the planning page for my supposed to be Christmas special page. This big chunk of text over here is actually the planning for the next project for that. I should probably get started on that soon, because otherwise I won't actually get it done in time for Christmas. And the planning for that continues on to the back of that page. This sketchbook, I really didn't focus too much on using the back of the page, since I knew that I would mainly be going through with I would mainly be going through with Copic markers. You'll definitely see a lot of just one-sided pages here. Here we get into my random prompts. I just realized I have this date wrong. It's November 5th and then February 11th. Whoops. This should be 2020. I knew something felt off. Now, back to here. So in November, I took a trip with my girlfriend and my older sister up to Chicago for a podcast live show. So around that time, I started making my list for the random drawing prompts challenges. Just to kind of test out the system, while I was using it in an Excel sheet, I had Jess, then Tori pick out 2 numbers, and then I made each a piece. So this was Jess's prompt picks. She picked 420, dance, and 69, flowers. Thanks, babe. And this was one I actually didn't color until maybe January, maybe February. I know this was one of the last pieces I touched in this sketchbook. The next piece was Tori's prompt words. It was number 3, battery, and number 333, ditch. Since I had a little bit of trouble figuring out what exactly I wanted to do with the word battery, we had to drive all the way up to Chicago, so we spent a long time in the car, and there is the inspiration for it being a car battery, and then these 2 people are hanging out in the ditch beside the road while they wait for AAA. I think this is the smallest I've drawn 2 characters on a page in a while, like since I had to use the 10x7 Canson sketchbooks. It's been a hot second since I've drawn small characters on a page. Also that weekend, I had started dabbling in drawing busts. I did these 2 with the Oahu markers, which I had also just recently gotten. I also wanted to doodle some rats. This piece was inspired by the arms and armament, the armor and arms section of the Chicago Art Museum? I really wanted to draw a dog for whatever reason, and they had all of these model horses in really poofy, ridiculous armor. Like, this was legit a shape. My one dream is to ride a ridiculously dressed horse. I don't know whether or not I would want to be wearing the same amount of plumage, but I think it would be fun regardless. I have it written over here. It's the Art Institute of Chicago Arms and Armor exhibit. Glad we have that sorted out. This was another random prompts pick. The words were Griffin, Rainy Day, and Ancient Artifact. I still haven't gotten coloring this one. I'm a little nervous too. It's been so long since I did this piece, I don't know what I had intentionally or originally in mind, and now it's blocking me from actually continuing to work on it. Not to mention, I drew this in November, and I just don't particularly want to go back and rework things from that long ago, you know? Like, the time for it to have been colored is kind of past. Is that a stupid idea? Probably. Am I going to go back to the sketchbook? Probably not. This is some future thumbnailing for my all orange video. I don't know whether or not I'm still going to go with this choice, but that is the next One Color Family challenge. I'm hoping to film that soon. I hoped to have filmed that back in February, but things happened. This is the first piece of Facing My Art Fears. The pandemic has kind of stopped me from going out and filming the second in this because I'm pretty sure the Franklin Conservatory is closed, and I don't know any other good places to go out and just sketch. Since doing this piece, I've bought a few more of these. The Windsor & Newton Professional Watercolors. I bought myself a watercolor class, and those watercolors should be on the way, so I should be able to start that class any day now. This piece definitely gave me a new appreciation for watercolors. My only regret is that I used the same line art, the same pen that I did the line art with for all of the background. If I would have gone in with the De La Rowney black ink like I did for this piece, I think it would look much better overall. But like I said, for the Griffin piece, the time for me to touch this one has come and gone, so we are moving on. These are some potential character designs for a story that I'm planning on writing. I think I'm actually going to take them even more simple than this, just because I will have to make a lot of individual illustrations for this book. It's supposed to be a sort of children's style book, and I'm also thinking about doing it digitally, just so that way it's easier for me to take one asset and move it to the next piece and be a little bit more consistent, because I know my traditional art has a little bit of an issue with consistency from piece to piece. Here's more thumbnailing for that piece for my December big I Spy page, and moving on. This was another attempt at a random prompt challenge. I picked out board game and rock, and I was really feeling the rock part, except for I realized I started drawing minerals, not rocks. There is a difference, and that's very important to me. And also I wasn't exactly feeling the board game aspect. I have a few ideas for how I'd return to this concept, but it definitely wouldn't be this. I feel like this was a little bit too flat of an illustration. And springboarding off of this piece, I really liked the rock prompt word. So I decided to pick out a second prompt word. That prompt word was shark. And this is probably my favorite piece in this entire sketchbook. This is entirely done with Posca pens and Molotow markers. Fun fact, the main color of this red is one of the smaller Molotow markers. Like in comparison to, and this is it in comparison to the normal size, the most common size of Posca pen that I usually see. I have multiples of these because this is actually my favorite paint marker in general. This is also the point where I first bought the really tiny nibbed Posca pens, and I think that genuinely made this piece. I don't know how I would have gotten as good of definition on the foreground of this if I didn't have it. I kind of wish I would have left the background without, just so that way you would get a sense of depth, but I do also enjoy the slight texture that I got, and the forming arch over here is one of my favorite tiny details. If you'll notice, whenever that was probably not in focus that entire time, and I'm very sorry. If you'll notice, whenever I'm drawing geology, I typically go for a Western style. I did the most of my field training in geology out in Utah, and that has definitely had a very formative influence on the art that I tend to do of rocks. It's also just nice that I don't have to really focus on foliage too much. I'm not a big foliage person. My sister's probably gonna rip my head off now that I've said that. However, I'm not a big foliage person. So, if you'll notice, the 20th and 21st of November, then we jump to the 12th of December, I had a really big unconformity. God. I had a really big gap in my motivation from this point to there. And I gotta say that I don't know whether or not it necessarily came back in full force. I think part of it was I was sick for a time in here. At least I recall being sick. I don't know whether or not that was reflected in any of my videos, but this was an idea I had for like a leaf lizard sort of creature, and it just ended up getting really goofy, and I kind of stopped thinking about it. The next page, Oh, wait. No, okay. This piece in particular is from the 12th. The rest of these are from the 23rd of November. When did I have my big... Okay, there wasn't the point where I had the big pause in my art, but it's somewhere in here. I know I had a while that I didn't pick this up. I'm gonna just... There we go. That's confusing. I hate that. Alright, yeah, the next page is on the 25th of November, so we're not at my art stall yet. So this page has some sticker designs that I still haven't gotten back to. I know I posted a poll about these two designs and I don't remember which actually won. These two were some ideas of mixing a dinosaur with a random item. This was derived from, I don't remember which sketchbook it comes from. Probably this one. Yeah. So this piece here that turned into my 11 by 15 Posca pen canvas board was originally supposed to have leaves as its plates. So I decided to reprise that idea. And then I tried thinking of other dinosaurs to mash into items. So this is a Dilophosaurus and a traffic cone. I feel like there was a Brachiosaur and a hockey puck on the back side of this image, but that didn't really end up working out, so I kind of gave up on the idea. This is one of the busiest pieces that I've done in a long time. I was trying to get ready for the Christmas season and trying to come up with ideas for things to post around Christmas, so I came up with this cozy kitchen witch with sentient hair. I don't know why Home is Where the Horseradish is what ended up on her potion, on her cauldron, that's the word, but I pulled a few prompts for this one, and those were sentient hair, spoon, and potion bottle, and it definitely kind of just rolled. I mean, rolling downhill makes it sound so negative, but I do enjoy this piece. It's very rare that I enjoy when I use green and red in the exact same image. I think the steak is my favorite part. Either the steak or the fish. F's in the chat for this character design. So this is the original design I had for a Pathfinder character. We were supposed to start this campaign sometime in maybe December, but that got pushed back due to other things, and I actually got bored with this character, and when I get bored with a character for a D&D campaign, I make a new character. So I liked this outfit so much for her that I just kind of stole it and made it a little bit more masculine for my next character. This next page was me trying to reformat my decades pieces. I have one video already up for this one, and I already am not a big fan of it. I really want to dabble more in decades and vintage fashion in my art, but the problem is there's not really, there hasn't been a good way for me to actually display it yet. I started this series originally thinking I'd do one piece for every single one, and then I realized that's A, a lot of videos, B, going to take a long time, and C, the first video kind of flopped a little bit, and I already did have to film that one twice, so I might be leaving behind the decades pieces, I might not be. The jury is currently out on this video series. I'm definitely going to include more vintage fashion in my art because it's been something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Around November, it started bothering me that I could never draw cats in like the actual way a cat looks and not just my weird interpretation of cats that I've always called witch cats. So I tried doodling a normal cat and it looked so bad that I never wanted to come back to this page again. This piece is supposed to be my older sister Tori and myself cracking the Wishbone on Thanksgiving. I was chilling out over at my parents' house for Thanksgiving and really didn't have anything else to do, and also needed something to post. So, on that same day, I was inspired by the Westminster Dog Show. I took my two favorite dog breeds, the Italian Greyhound and the Boston Terrier, and put them in some cute sweaters. I don't know which I prefer more. I like the color of this dog a little better, but I think I like this sweater more. It kind of bugs me that some of the spacing of the hearts, like it's thicker, like it's wider spaced through here and then a lot closer together through here. Honestly, I forgot this piece was in here. I didn't remember whether or not this one was a standalone paper or not, but this piece was, let's see, is this where? Yes. This is where I started to have a little bit of trouble with inspiration. So we go from the 29th of November to the 5th of December. I know that's not like particularly long, but I try to at least draw something almost every day, but around this point was where I was just starting to lag. This character is trying to decide which spiritual, which animal she'd rather be. I don't think there's a prompt or anything that goes with this. It just ended up spawning from a very minor thought. I don't remember any of the other thought process that went through this piece. I wish I would have done something different for the background. I used a very washed down acrylic ink for this, and acrylic ink doesn't sink into this paper very well. It has a lot more of that pebbling, which is my least favorite texture of watercolors, but on top of that, it dries instantly, so you get all of this double layering texture and all of the lines, and it's really hard to avoid that, especially in this paper in particular. So I am on Patreon. I haven't done anything with it yet because I actually don't have any Patreon followers. That's totally fair. And Patreon, I've also heard, is really hard to get started on as a small artist, which is totally understandable. One good thing that came out of this is I started getting better at drawing plaids in Posca pens. Around this point, I started getting really into drawing busts. I wanted to have a series of stickers for each of the seasons. So we have spring, which I went really fancy and kind of vintage with, summer, which I went sort of casual with, autumn, which is a little bit casual, a little bit closer to this one, and then winter. I decided I wanted to take a stab at doing two sets. So we have the fancy and the casual sets. So this is the spring fancy set, and these three are the season's casual sets. So over here we have the spring casual set bust, which is just kind of more chill. And then we have the summer, autumn, and winter fancy sets. Now this set of busts, I went through for my D&D campaign after Loris, and redesigned all of the gods, and also some demigods. So I did this page on one day, and then this, both sides here, and both sides here, all on the same day. I think the weakest of these designs might be Alessia. I think I need to fix her up a little bit. She just looks average in comparison to a lot of the others. This page is a redrawing of my art from 2009. This was the 2009 to 2019 challenge. Video is up there. I really don't like talking about this character as much as I possibly can. This design is actually for a doll custom I've been planning for a hot second. This design has changed a lot, mostly because of certain limitations of the body that I bought for her. So this is the current progress of this doll. I'm planning on having a video of the customization process of her, but as you can see, she doesn't have one hand, and also her entire arm on this side was missing when I bought her. This is oh, she has something on her face she didn't have before. That's fun. The blue and red hair has always been a plan, but when I started actually working on it, I really loved how long and luscious this was, so I just decided to leave it long and luscious. And you will see further character designs for this character in this sketchbook. This is where I had my big long break, so this piece was likely around the 16th or 17th, and then we go a full 10 days, and I drew this one on the 27th of December. I was at my grandparents' for Christmas and just gotten my most recent 72 set of markers, and I decided to test out some random 3 marker challenges. I have some bad luck whenever I do 3 marker challenges that I tend to get pinks and greens together, and I usually just jump straight to watermelons. I don't feel like this piece is particularly strong. I got frustrated at some point and started drawing too hard, so you can very much still see the base drawing in places. This is from, I think, either the same day or the next day. This is from the same day or the next day. I was feeling a little bit better about the colors I picked for this one, but I don't like the design. It just doesn't have a lot of reason behind it. I just started drawing and let it roll and couldn't really come up with anything to follow it. So I have left this one alone just to kind of represent my lack of motivation for it. Then we go from the 28th all the way to the 2nd of January. I know I didn't color this one for another good few days after. I don't think this one came with a prompt word either. I just wanted to draw some really long hair because Jess was watching a whole lot of Rapunzel at that point. This page was my first attempt for the Inktober 52 prompt flight. It was originally going to be this princess with some pterosaurs flying next to her, but I didn't quite like the layout of this piece, and I also don't know. There's some bleed through from a marker testing on the other side. I reattempted this piece and decided that she was going to be a Vitric instead, and if you want to learn more about Vitrics, I can link the video where I recently drew one as a part of one of my random prompt challenges. This character ended up becoming a mainstay character for a background character in my comic. There's some explaining to do here that I can't really get into because I don't want to really spoil too much for where they fit in for the comic. So that character became named Vanadine. Then we have Temper and Othoro. This is an inside joke for Kindred Fates. I will link the video this is referencing in the top corner. Kindred Fates is a video game that I've actually been working with a little bit here and there. If I hop back over to this sketchbook, my 20th, I didn't have confirmation when I filmed it if I could share, but now is finally the time. I've been doing concept art for them for a few characters. I originally designed K-Knight and Auburn, and those two are the first few that were released for Kindred Fates, and I'm so happy to see at least how Auburn's grown. K-Knight has stayed pretty close to this original concept, though they look a little bit less bored. I am excited about that. This is a character design for a mini game that I played with my D&D group based on the Alien series. We were all part of a crew for the main company that is in the series. I actually don't remember off the top of my head what it is, and we haven't come back to this game, and I'm so mad because I really enjoyed Dr. Bryce Hopper Cowell. He was a cantankerous, morally gray idiot. And here we have more Kindred Fates stuff. In early January, they had a Complete the Tree contest, and you were supposed to make kinfolk designs based around one of theirs. This is the original design that we were supposed to build around, and I actually couldn't decide which way I wanted to go. I think, in actuality, it would be, so just to redraw, just to explain here. So in Kindred Fates, you have Monster A, and then you have Monster B and C, and then C evolves further into D and E. I didn't know whether or not I wanted the evolution line to end at their design or whether or not I wanted it to end at my individual design, so I did a potential evolution for both. I think there's merits of both D and E designs for both lines, but my starting creature is this kind of mix between a deer and a prairie dog, and it has the elements of the spines and the chest and the beginnings of a horn. And then theirs went very much for a deer, whereas over here I went for more of a unicorn dog sort of thing. If Rucorna would be evolved into two other things, we have Ruthorna and Makuro, which we have the more psychic type, the more psychically focused creature, where the spots on the forehead of Rucorna become secondary eyes, and then we have the more predatory, well, it's more predatory and more defensive. I think that was what it was, or the more passive. And then if Serphalon would have, their original design would have become the one to actually branch off, you would have the Geminier, which is the double head where you split the horn, and the Sermortem, where it's officially dead and the horn kind of breaks and floats around their neck. These were my entries for their contest. Since I do work with them, I don't actually get considered to win for any of their competitions, but it is still so fun to be able to experiment with my take on whatever the prompt is. So over here we have some thumbnails for what would potentially go with the giveaway. On the back of that page, we have some potential designs for business cards. One of these I actually started on a Posca board, but I haven't touched this since. I just wasn't exactly liking where I placed myself on the card, and besides, I currently have a different design of a business card that I'm potentially going to be going with. I don't remember where exactly the thought process came from for this drawing. I do really like the limited color palette. It makes the red really pop. This is another one of those pieces that just kind of started developing out of nowhere. I haven't even erased the pencil lines out of here because I just haven't really had the motivation to finish him. I do really like all of the creatures I included. Most of all, this giant isopod and these two lamprey. I guess this lamprey up here is also pretty cute. And I found my mainstay shape of fish. It looks a little bit like Freddy the Fish from my recollection, but these fish are detailed enough yet easy enough to draw. Alrighty. I'm pretty sure this is the page I was on when my camera died. This page, it has these two different dates on it because I left this big expansive paper blank for some time because I started doodling this, and then I didn't want to have to look at it anymore on the 9th of January, and then I came back and did these pieces on this page when I was starting to run out of paper back here, and was also trying to work on getting my comfort back with my art. Something I realized around the beginning of February is that I like horror, but I don't draw a lot of it. And I think that's something that my art has been missing. Like, I definitely do a lot of safe character design. So in my next sketchbook, I'm really hoping to delve into some horror topics. You can definitely thank the Magnus Archives. This is definitely a weird distortion avatar who is also an elf, who also has aspects of the eye, you know, just the Magnus Archives page. I really like the style of staying sketchy but also using Posca pens for bits of color, and I need to do more of this. I kind of keep forgetting that my Posca pens exist. around the middle of January, I had thought that I was going to do a month-long color challenge to be able to work on my uses of color. Of course, I went and chose my most used Posca pen, or my most used Copic markers, which is a bad plan. If you're going to be doing a month-long challenge of something, you don't do something with a very expensive and very limited supply. Like, it would have been a better idea to have gone with maybe some of my Ecoline watercolors instead of going with Copic markers. I had Posca pens as an alternative, but I ended up never doing this. And I also, there was potentially going to be an April-long watercolor challenge. That also fell to the wayside. I might be able to have time to do a watercolor month sometime this summer, and that'll be a lot nicer once I have a class about watercolors under my belt. To kind of test out these colors together, I doodled this cute little deer, and I'm thinking of turning that into a sticker. On the next page is another potential character design for the comic. I actually don't remember what her name is, and I don't seem to have it written down anywhere here. So that's great. I have an obsession with Vitrix. They're my favorite race that I've created for my D&D world, and you can tell that by just how often I draw them. So these next few pages are more possible character designs for this lovely lady. So here we have a design playing into the steampunk fantasy nature of her hand. This one actually does include a design for a fake weird hand on this side. I'm going to have to figure out a new way to do that because I don't think it fits into the design I have actually settled on. So we have version 3 because this one was actually version 2. This is actually version 1. It has the arm prosthetics design that I have in version 3. And then from version 3, we go on to version 4, because this was another mini redesign based off of this one just to get a different angle. So we went from here with this fantasy mechanic sort of design to some sort of evil sorceress with a weird ball and chain type of weapon. This was another doodle to kind of focus on that villain design while also trying to design an outfit that I could create with the materials I have on hand. I will probably get more into this character design process in the video featuring this doll in particular. This piece is a Draw This in Your Style that was hosted by the Damien Hale over on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure they also have a YouTube channel. I know they've talked to me at least on here, and I will link them down below. So this was actually my third attempt at this piece. I originally went in on a watercolor paper and decided that I wasn't exactly liking the face setup of this, so I thumbnailed for a little bit to figure out what exactly I thought should happen. I had an idea, so backing up a moment, this is the original piece that this one is based off of, so here it is. This was version 1, where I started trying to follow that one a little bit more closely and decided that I didn't quite like it as much, at least my take on it, so I thumbnailed out 2 options, and I decided that this one was really interesting since she has this clear, translucent magical sword. I wanted to give her a shield to go with it, and ignoring all of the marking on this page, I tried going for that, but it just didn't end up working out. So I decided to scrap this one, and I stepped back for a few days. I actually don't have dates on either of these. And then when I came back, I decided to go for the other pose just because I would be able to do the facing forward point of view that I've really started loving, and also the the flow of the hair looked a lot better from this angle. I think this piece was really a pivotal point for my art, because this is where I started feeling comfortable again. And I really have to thank the Damien Hale for hosting this challenge. This was one of my favorite Draw This in Your Style challenges that I've ever participated in. And if you don't already follow them, I will link them, and please go follow them. Here we have some thumbnailing for my rock that I will post on screen here because it is currently stashed away on the corner of my desk and I don't want to disturb the rest of my rocks. This is another one I did a video for, so if you want to see more of it, top corner. So in late January, I was having another one of those points where I wasn't exactly enjoying what I was drawing, and I wanted to do a little bit of toying around with my style. And I did a smaller page of just a whole bunch of random busts. And these two idiots are my favorite. We have my headcanon Elias Bouchard from the Magnus Archives, and my headcanon Season 1 John. But this character in particular also really stuck out to me, and I had to draw her again. And I also drew her again, but digitally. So she's seen a lot of redraws. And I also think this was originally my headcanon Peter. I've since redesigned my Peter, though this one is also pretty good. I just wanted to draw a whole bunch of busts without really having more to them, you know? I actually might tape this into this sketchbook here, just so that way it's with the other. Because these two really do go together. This one might have happened a little bit before this one. I don't have, oh, it happened the day before. So this one directly sprang into the one that's officially here. So this is now going to live in this sketchbook with its counterpart instead of in my big binder of art. So on the back of that page, I decided that I wanted to try to do a few more busts, and this one at least ended up developing into the base concept for a character design. I think this one also was intended to be one, but I kind of lost interest in drawing at this point. So these were on the 28th. And then over here, I didn't draw again until the 3rd of February, and this was the point at which I was on my mini hiatus from YouTube, and I didn't have anything filmed that I was actually that thrilled about possibly posting. Like, I had some things, but even now they're still sitting in my queue, and I just don't quite enjoy them. I'll post them probably eventually, but there's also a part of me that's just like, if I don't enjoy them, what's the point in posting them? Because I want to bring you guys things that I'm actually happy with, you know? I don't want to post things and just be like slapping it out every week. So I decided that I would stop filming this day because I didn't really have a whole lot of concept behind it. And also the proportioning and the body shape wasn't exactly coming together. But like I wrote here, nothing felt right. Literally the next day, I came back with this, with my headcanon of what Nicola Orsinoff looks like. This is another Magnus Archives character. I rarely do fan art, but Nicola is one of my favorite one of my favorite antagonists in the Magnus Archives, and she has such a charisma about her that I just felt the need to draw her. And also, I had recently bought an iridescent gold ink, and I desperately wanted a reason to use it. Spoiler alert for the next piece has some gore in it, and if you would prefer to just skip it, you can skip to this timestamp. This next page was definitely a doodle gone awry. I didn't originally intend for it to be so gory, but it's been a while since I've included gore in my art, and I realized how much I miss it. I tend to really enjoy gore in a certain sense. Like when it is well done and it's and it has a good purpose, I tend to really enjoy it. Like in film and literature. Visual mediums, it's hit or miss. It doesn't tend to bother me that much, so I'm very sorry if, actually, the only thing I don't like about this piece is that I included, okay, that's a lie. There's two things I don't enjoy about this piece. The red in her hair makes her hair blend into this background, and I also don't particularly enjoy the background. I finished the main figure of this piece and was like, yeah, cool, it's done. And then I looked back at it again and it's like, yeah, but it doesn't exactly feel done. Like it feels like it needs something to it. So I decided to add in this Starburst background. And as soon as I started coloring in these spots, I realized that I should have gone for maybe a purple because there's already so much red in this piece. I wouldn't want to go with a blue or yellow because it would be too close to the hair, but there's so little purple touching where the Starburst is that purple would have been a better choice. And then the hair here wouldn't blend in. I do really like the character design. I ended up attributing this this piece to the song Belly Ache by Billy Idol. Nope, not Billy Idol. No, Billie Eilish, that's it. I ended up attributing this piece to the song Belly Ache by Billie Eilish. If you haven't given it a listen, I actually didn't listen to it until after I'd already made this piece, but it definitely fits. And here we have the last piece in this sketchbook. I originally filmed the process of making this piece just so that way we could finish out this sketchbook in style, and I could use this as my coming back from my YouTube hiatus piece, because this is the point at which I was starting to feel a lot better about my creating. The problem is, on this next page, I put this sticker in the sketchbook because I didn't really have anywhere else to put this sticker, and also I've had it lying around for a long time. I would have put it on the outside, but it actually doesn't have a good plastic coating. It's just kind of like normal paper. So I decided to put it on the inside. But through the entire video, you can see the outline of it, and while you are up close, you can very much see it a lot more. Like, that's the one thing I kind of don't enjoy about this sketchbook. As a backup, I do have a second Illo sketchbook. This isn't it. This is actually my first Illo sketchbook, but the other sketchbook is in the other room, and I am too lazy to get up and go get it. So, I'm currently using that, but I'm still not the biggest fan of the paper anymore. Like, the next sketchbook I will be going through is going to be this Strathmore sketchbook, and I'm hoping to get another one of these because this is just about the perfect size for an on-the-go sketchbook. This one I do really enjoy, and I'm hoping to get another one. However, it's definitely a little better for keeping at home because it is 9 inches by 9 inches. That's a little hard to fit in some of my mini backpacks. So like this will fit in my mini can, this will not, which is a very minor detracting feature. I do absolutely love the paper. This, I believe, works best for markers. I don't really do charcoals or anything. I didn't do any gouache or acrylic in this one, though I do have it on good authority that gouache and acrylic work great on B Paper Company's Super Deluxe Mixed Media paper, because my girlfriend actually did a lot of acrylic studies in hers. So if you can get your hands on this paper, I definitely would suggest it. If you feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles. Thanks, and I'll see y'all in the next one.